Tonight, the group chat bombshell, some of America's top leaders texting candidly and sharing sensitive military strategy with a group that included a top magazine editor. Secretary of Defense, the Vice President, and more debated military options before the raid on Houthis in Yemen. What the president is saying as lawmakers are outraged, some calling for an investigation, and what the editor-in-chief, who was accidentally included, is telling us now. The legal battles from courtrooms to top law firms, the hearing over whether the Trump administration can deport migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Laura Jarrett and why it's likely headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's barely spring and wildfires are threatening the Carolinas. A state of emergency and evacuation orders underway. Our team in the fire zone. The incredible discovery after a plane goes missing in Alaska. The real-life rodeo on a highway near Houston after steers got loose from their trailer. 23andMe bankrupt, once worth billions. What you need to know if you're concerned about the safety of your data. And our sit-down with baseball superstar Juan Soto, who led the Yankees to the World Series. Why the Mets have 765 million reasons they hope he can do the same for them.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. An apparent national security breach that included group text exchanges among top Trump administration officials about U.S. war plans in the Middle East is raising alarm bells tonight. The story broken by the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, who in an article published today describes how he was accidentally added to a discussion group of the U.S. response to Houthi rebel attacks. Jeffrey Goldberg reporting he received the text by way of the encrypted messaging app Signal that appeared to come from Vice President Vance, along with Secretary of Defense Hegseth and Secretary of State Rubio, among others. The messages The Atlantic reports include precise information about weapons packaging, targeting, and timing. Information the magazine reports appeared to be accurate. Tonight, the National Security Council acknowledging the account appeared to be authentic and that it is trying to learn how an inadvertent number was added to the thread. Andrea Mitchell has much more.
Days before U.S. fighter jets took off from the aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea for strikes against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, a security breach with potentially catastrophic consequences for the U.S. military. Details of the U.S. war plans shared in real time with The Atlantic's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg by accident on the unclassified commercial messaging app Signal.
I assumed that I was being spoofed or hoaxed or being included in some kind of disinformation campaign because it was simply too improbable to me that they would have such poor operational security as to inadvertently invite the editor of The Atlantic into a national security discussion about the timing of a bombing campaign.
But it was deadly serious. Goldberg says he was added by a user, National Security Advisor Mike Walls, to a group chat, including the Vice President, the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, the CIA Director, and the Director of National Intelligence, sharing precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. Shocking Senate Intelligence Vice Chair Mark Warner.
Holy crap. I mean, when this level of detail is being shared on a non-classified network, and this isn't the first time we've seen this sloppiness from this administration. Early on, there were a couple hundred CIA agents whose identities were exposed.
Goldberg says at one point the vice president called the timing of the attack on the Houthis, who've been striking international ships in the Red Sea for 2 years, a mistake, because it conflicts with the president's message to end the war in Ukraine.
That was actually very substantive. There was disagreement among some of the principals. J.D. Vance suggested in this conversation that he not only disagreed with the president, but also felt that the president didn't have all the information or all the insight available.
The National Security Council says the chat appears to be authentic, adding, "We are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain, and there was no threats to our service members or our national security." The president reacting tonight.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me
lots of questions here, Andrea. What's the fallout from all this?
Lester, the administration is lucky the person they added to the chat was a serious journalist, because Jeff Goldberg did not report the name of a covert CIA official and left the chat when they started talking about sensitive bomb assessments. Ironically, the administration has threatened to prosecute leaks. Tonight, Hillary Clinton, investigated for her emails, tweeted, "You've got to be kidding me." Lester?
Andrea Mitchell, thanks. Now to the legal showdown over the Trump administration's deportation of alleged migrant gang members, citing a law giving the president sweeping wartime powers. Those deportations the center of a court fight tonight. Kelly O'Donnell has late details.
President Trump's use of a rare wartime power facing a new legal test.
These are bad people that should have never been allowed into our country.
Today, Mr. Trump defended his administration's mass deportation policy, including the removal this month of alleged migrant gang members who were flown out and sent to an El Salvadoran prison under the Alien Enemies Act, which does not provide due process. The president says he declared members of the Venezuelan gang TDA as foreign terrorists subject to immediate expulsion.
We're getting the bad ones out first, and we're taking them out.
Today, a three-judge federal appeals panel heard arguments as Trump administration lawyers seek to overturn Judge James Boasberg, who temporarily blocked deportation flights using the 18th century law. The administration says the judge went too far.
The district court's order represents an unprecedented and enormous intrusion upon the powers of the executive branch.
In a notable court exchange, Judge Millett raised concerns about the deportations.
There were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act.
A literal reference to the law's use during World War II that prompted this response from the government's lawyer.
Well, Your Honor, we certainly dispute the Nazi analogy.
While Trump border czar Tom Homan reacted with outrage.
We removed terrorists. And to compare that any way whatsoever with Nazis is disgusting on every level.
The Trump administration cited the Alien Enemies Act to carry out 137 deportations, providing no names or evidence. Using other authorities, they say 11,000 migrants were deported in February. Outside the hearing, an ACLU lawyer representing a group of these deportees described what could be at stake.
Someone who was not even a gang member could now spend the rest of their lives in a Salvadoran prison.
Meanwhile, Kelly, there's another headline involving President Trump's directive on investigating certain law firms.
So the president issued a memo to his attorney general and Homeland Security secretary to sanction law firms that file suits the administration finds frivolous or penalize lawyers by pulling their security clearances. Tonight, critics say this is an inappropriate use of presidential power. Lester?
All right, Kelly, thanks. Laura Jarrett joining me now. Laura, this could be headed to the Supreme Court.
Almost certainly in this case, and probably several others, Lester, like birthright citizenship or the layoffs of federal workers. These issues in the courts partly because of just how much the president is doing by executive order or action, things that haven't been done before. We now see over 40 different rulings so far from federal judges blocking actions by the Trump administration. A few, the Supreme Court already being asked to weigh in on, while there's no guarantee which of these cases the justices will eventually take up. What's really before them is a broader fight over the scope of the president's authority, Lester.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Wildfires tonight burning throughout the Carolinas as firefighters work to contain the flames. The dangerous conditions leading to evacuations for some residents. Kathy Park is in Polk County, North Carolina.
Tonight, crews across the Carolinas fighting multiple wildfires, attacking the flames on the ground and in the air. Parts of western North Carolina taking the biggest blow just 6 months after the remnants of Hurricane Helene tore through the region. The storm knocked down debris and trees, adding extra fuel to these fires.
Take a look. This is just a snapshot of some of the burn scars in the area. We're not seeing any active flames right now, but that doesn't mean hot spots can't flare up at any moment.
Residents near the danger zone warned to leave or risk getting trapped or injured.
It's been a wild couple of days.
The blaze nearly took over John Grace's backyard in Polk County.
The fire is burning like crazy. There's massive amounts of manpower.
For 6 hours, firefighters kept the flames away. South Carolina's governor declaring a state of emergency. The Table Rock fire scorching more than 1,000 acres this weekend, putting residents like Kathy Bear on edge.
When you look at the smoke, does this make you a little nervous?
A little, but I'm hoping and praying that it goes the opposite direction of our house.
A wildfire tore through 2,300 acres in New Jersey's Wharton State Forest. 2 days later, it's now fully contained. And more wild weather in the south spawned a tornado in Mississippi Sunday, while damaging winds in Louisiana toppled trees onto homes.
And conditions have been so dry in the area, it doesn't take much for these fires to spread. In western North Carolina, nearly 5,000 acres have already burned. Lester?
Kathy Park, thanks. Tonight, state troopers in Alaska say search teams have found the wreckage of a small private plane that went missing late Sunday, and amazingly, everyone survived. Tom Costello joining us now. Tom, this was a pilot and 2 children, I understand.
Yeah, that's right. They were flying in a small Piper PA-12 and went down on the eastern side of a lake on the Kenai Peninsula. Rescue teams say the pilot and those 2 children were spotted standing on the plane's wing after it apparently went through soft ice while landing on Lake Tustamina, notorious for dangerous winds. They've been missing since about 10:30 p.m. local time Sunday. Coast Guard and National Guard planes and choppers began searching the area when the pilot's cell phone last pinged in that region. At about 10:30 this morning, a Good Samaritan reported finding all 3 after what was likely a very cold night in the plane. All 3 taken to a local hospital for evaluation. Lester?
We're glad they're okay. Tom, thanks for that. Now to new threats against Tesla. An incendiary device is found at a Texas showroom. It comes as protests grow as part of a Tesla takedown movement. Here's Liz Kreutz with more.
Tonight, the nationwide protest targeting Tesla and its CEO Elon Musk escalating. In Austin, Texas this morning, police finding multiple incendiary devices placed at a Tesla showroom. Nobody was injured, but the incident just the latest attack on Tesla, which has become a political flashpoint by those frustrated with Musk's role in the federal government and Doge spending cuts. During a cabinet meeting today, Musk saying Doge employees are facing daily death threats.
A lot of them are just kids, they're just trying to help out, and they're very talented. They could get jobs for millions of dollars a year. Instead, they come here, earn peanuts, and get death threats.
Tonight, FBI Director Kash Patel calling attacks on Tesla cars, showrooms, and charging stations domestic terrorism and launching a new task force to investigate and find the perpetrators. This is a doxing website resurfaced, publishing some contact information for Tesla owners. Protesters gathered over the weekend at nearly 90 Tesla showrooms, calling on people to sell their Teslas and dump their stock.
What's going on in Washington, D.C. right now is not right.
While mostly peaceful, some turning confrontational. In Berkeley, California, a 33-year-old counter-protester arrested after whipping out a stun gun. And in Palm Beach County, Florida, a Trump supporter charged with assault after driving his car towards protesters, narrowly avoiding them.
And the FBI is now warning the public to exercise vigilance and to look out for any suspicious activity in areas around Tesla dealerships. Lester?
Liz Kreutz, thank you. We'll be right back in 60 seconds. The tragic death of a former baseball star's son while on vacation with the family. What we're finding out in just a moment. We are following developments tonight on the death of a former New York Yankees star's teenage son. Brett Gardner says his 14-year-old son fell ill on vacation and later died in his sleep. Emily Aketa has the latest.
Tonight, new details in the sudden and mysterious death of former Yankee Brett Gardner's 14-year-old son. Investigators in Costa Rica say the teen was found in a hotel room Friday and appears to have died by asphyxiation after a possible intoxication from apparently ingesting some food, according to a translated statement by the Judicial Investigation Agency. Gardner writing in a statement with his wife that their son Miller left us far too soon after falling ill along with several other family members while on vacation, adding, "We have so many questions and so few answers at this point, but we do know that he passed away peacefully in his sleep." The exact cause of death is still under investigation as officials now await autopsy results. The loss moving Gardner's former coach and current Mets manager Carlos Mendoza to tears.
I had the opportunity to coach him in the big leagues, and I got 2 boys too, and they were pretty close.
The family says Miller loved hunting and fishing, along with baseball, golf, and football, sporting the same number 11 as his dad, who played exclusively for the New York Yankees for 14 seasons. As Gardner's career blossomed, so did his family, raising 2 boys alongside wife Jessica. Now, their extended family offering their support. The Yankees posting, words feel insignificant and insufficient in trying to describe such an unimaginable loss that has prompted an outpouring of love and questions. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
And still to come for us tonight, the company was once worth billions, but now 23andMe is in bankruptcy. What you need to know to keep your DNA data safe. Plus, the chaotic Monday morning commute you won't want to miss. A chaotic scene today on an interstate near Houston when 6 steers got loose after the trailer transporting them from a rodeo malfunction. You can see cattle jumping a freeway median, weaving through traffic, and drivers even jumping out of their cars to help as officers work to wrangle them. All have finally been recovered, but the highway was closed for hours. It was once valued at $6 billion. Now genetic testing company 23andMe is filed for bankruptcy, and that's raising questions about what will happen to the DNA and personal information of millions of customers. Here's Stephanie Gosk.
A key to unlock family history and possibly improve one's own health.
My DNA journey started here with 23andMe.
But now 23andMe, the company that has collected genetic samples from millions of customers, is filing for bankruptcy.
I'm the California Attorney General. I'm also a consumer. It's a decision that's best for me to delete today.
Attorney General Rob Bonta says he's deleting his 23andMe account, and others should consider doing the same thing. What is your biggest concern about this bankruptcy?
That the private, sensitive data and information of 14 million consumers who have used 23andMe could get into the wrong hands.
In a statement, 23andMe says it will continue operating its business in the ordinary course during bankruptcy proceedings, adding there are no changes to the way the company stores, manages, or protects customer data. But in 2023, a cyber breach exposed the data of nearly 7 million customers. 23andMe settled a lawsuit for $30 million. Last fall, the company announced it was letting go of hundreds of employees and closing its therapeutics division because profits were dropping. Still, co-founder Ann Wojcicki sounded upbeat about 23andMe's future at the time.
Is the company still viable, in your opinion?
100%.
Is it?
Yes, I definitely I believe in the company. I believe in the long-term mission, but I believe it's essential for us to restructure.
Posting today that her belief in the company and its future is unwavering. Wojcicki says she is stepping down as CEO so she can possibly buy the company back herself if the court allows it to be auctioned off. And whoever buys it will have to follow the original privacy statements, according to 23andMe.
But that doesn't mean those privacy statements can't change in the future.
Glenn Cohen is a Harvard law professor. What is your message to customers today about 23andMe?
Pay careful, close attention to what happens next. Be careful about clicking through anything that looks like a change in the privacy statement.
So, Stephanie, what does this mean? If you want to delete your account with the end goal of deleting the DNA, how do you go about it?
So you go into your profile, into settings. There's a section there called 23andMe Data. You have an option, Lester, to download your data or permanently delete it.
All right, Stephanie, thanks. Up next, superstar outfielder Juan Soto is stepping up to the plate with the New York Mets. What he told us ahead of a highly anticipated opening day. Next. There is good news tonight about baseball season getting underway with opening day set for this Thursday. Our Peter Alexander caught up with superstar Juan Soto, who is about to make his official debut with the Mets.
He has one of the biggest bats in baseball and now the biggest contract in all of sports to boot. Juan Soto's payday, $765 million over 15 years, and with it, plenty of expectations.
How do you maintain your focus in that climate?
They give me this for who I am, so I'm going to keep being who I am.
Soto has already drawn comparisons to legends like Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle. After helping guide the Yankees to a World Series appearance last fall, the highly sought-after slugger left one New York team for the other, joining the Mets.
What do you say to those Yankee fans who feel like you left them out in the cold?
I mean, I can't complain about the Yankee fans. They were amazing day in, day out, the whole season last year. But things happen.
At spring training, that big contract has already made Soto a big target. The 26-year-old Dominican superstar heard that heckler, and in his next at-bat,
Juan Soto, that one is out of here.
Crushed a home run right over his head.
I didn't know I was doing that, but definitely I wanted to do something to show him so he can be more quietly.
Soto is hoping he's the one making noise this season for a team that hasn't won a World Series in nearly 40 years.
I'm not a magician that are going to tell you that what's going to happen this year, but we're going to be up there.
Mets fans are already eyeing that crown as Soto puts baseball on notice. Peter Alexander, NBC News, Port St. Lucie, Florida.
And that is Nightly News for this Monday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.